Hey there, improv tipsters. Well, today I am back with another What Were You Thinking video, and my guest today is the lovely and talented Dave Razowsky. Now, you may remember him from this tip, ding ding, or this tip, ding ding. But today he is, we do a little scene together and then we start to talk about it. I say start to talk about it because we don't get more than a few seconds into the scene where we stop and talk and stop and talk and stop. And we just simply, I'm not going to lie to you, we just ran out of time. But I think that nonetheless, even though it doesn't sort of really break down the scene in great detail, there is a ton of really great insights from Dave, who has been doing this longer than I have, and I think that's a pretty darn long time. And he has a lot of really great, interesting things to say, starting from the very beginning, before we even start the scene. We don't take a suggestion. Why? Well, you have to watch the video to find that out. All of his bio information is down below, ding ding, and also in these two videos, ding ding, and you can check that out at your convenience, including ding ding down below his TED Talk, which is really, really fun and interesting. But right now, without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy me and Dave Razowsky. Hey everybody, what we're going to do is we're going to do a scene, and then as you know, we're going to break it down and talk about it. Ordinarily, we get a suggestion, but talking with Dave before, in this case, we're not going to take suggestions. We'll talk about why coming up. That'll be part of the video. But I guess no further ado, Dave Razowsky, me, let's begin.
Let it go, Jerry.
It's easy for you to say let it go. You're not on the line. Your ass isn't on the line, Tom.
Let it go. Just leave it alone. You know what? Whatever it is you have holding on to now, you don't need to hold on to it. It's not a big thing.
Is it? It isn't?
No.
Tom, a second ago, you said whatever it is, let it go.
Right.
How do you know it's not a big thing if you just said whatever it is?
I know what you're doing. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're thinking. I know your anxiety. I know your past. I know your present. I know your future.
Okay, I'll let it go. There, it's gone.
Bullshit.
Yes,
Bullshit.
I'm not letting it go at all.
No, you're not.
Not even a bit. Not even a little bit. Okay?
Give yourself a minute. Let it go. Release. Let it go.
Okay.
There we go. There we go. There we go. You started it.
It is good. I'm glad I got it.
Did you like it?
I do. I like it. It's good. It's surprising. Finally, someone made a good cup of coffee in this.
Hey,
Let it go. 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 Let it go.
He's letting it go, everybody.
Guys, I'm letting it go.
He's gonna let it go. You know, he might say, guys, I'm letting it go, but I know this. He hasn't let it go yet. He's gonna let it go. Yeah, I'm not gonna let you do that. Here. Just finish it up. There we go. There we go. He's almost done. We're almost gone. We're almost out of here, folks. We're done. He's done.
I let it go.
He let it go.
We're good.
Are we good?
I think so. I think the best that I can do right now.
No, I'm sorry. Are we good?
Oh, yeah, we're good. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you meant the world. Like, are you good? Are we good?
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. I'm still. Mama,
You know what? You're
fucking not good. God damn it. I'm not good. You're right.
You want another one?
No.
We'll have another one.
Yeah, I'll have another one.
See?
Hey everybody, so we did the scene, you just saw that. Now we're gonna watch it back as our breakdown, kind of our thought process. What were we thinking as we were doing it? This is very exciting. Thank you for coming to do this.
Oh my God, I love this so much.
I was thinking about it. I started this ball rolling because I was listening to an episode of your podcast, ADD Comedy with David Razowsky, on iTunes and wherever you get your fine quality podcasts, right? And I recommend it, highly recommend it. One of my favorite episodes is, well, for personally, the one that I got to do with you was a treat for me. Fun. But I think for the audience, I would recommend really the Mick Napier episode.
Oh yeah,
is really the conversations are often wide ranging, and that was. But I think as improvisers, that is chock full of information and really actionable ideas, and it goes deep. And I really love that episode. I recommend it to people. consistently to get them into your podcast.
That's great. It's a good primer. Yeah, and also talking to Mick was just such a joy.
Yeah.
Because we sort of grew up together. We didn't sort of. We grew up together in improvisation.
Yeah.
And we both went different directions. You know, starting out with Metroform, starting out and then taking it to the annoyance. And he went one way and I went another way. It's like, oh, and I love going to playing with those guys. Did you do the Screw Puppy show?
I didn't.
You know what it is,
I
right?
do, huh?
So it was like they had 2 cases of beer backstage, and it was at midnight, and they would do the show, and when the cases of beer were done, the show was over.
I think it was just before my time when I was in Chicago, and I would hear about the show, or Metroform too, the show that just closed. I was like, I think I just missed it.
Right.
So usually I sort of start off with a suggestion, and how did you feel about the suggestion? But in this case, we didn't get a suggestion, so let's start there before we can sort of spool this up. Why don't we talk about how come no suggestion? I think this is a pretty tried and true sort of improv thing of getting a suggestion. How come? What's your feeling about that? Why did you want to start without a suggestion?
I'm really excited about improvising purely, improvising from the moment. And when I'm inspired by the way that you're standing, your body language, in the viewpoints we call it shape. You know, what are you standing, leaning? What are you doing? How far away are you?
So literally, sorry, I'm not super familiar with viewpoints, but you mean literally the shape of my body?
Absolutely. What does it? Because the first line of dialogue is, for me, the first line of dialogue is not spoken. It's me looking at your shape, noticing your shape, commenting about your shape. So it's essentially, if I look at you and I say to myself, Paul looks tired. I'm not going to say like that. That's a gift, right? And that's a gift that connects you right away, and you don't have to figure anything out. So I say, I call that the inside my head voice.
Sure.
The inside my head voice says, Paul looks tired. I'm not going to say to you, you look tired, because that's not really a gift.
Okay.
The gift is going to be, you got to take a nap. And at that moment, you get to know, because I'm a big one, I don't say yes, I say no. I'm wanting you to say, I don't want to take a nap. You know, and we saw it in this scene where it's like, calm down. Like, I'm not going to calm down. It's like, yes, that's what I want you to do.
Great.
I want to have that tension.
Great. So even before we start this, let's talk about that. So at the very beginning, you are just sort of vibing off the person's energy or the shape of their body. Lauren Pritchard talks about this in hers. Chris Tallman talks about this in his. Just that first sort of non-verbal gift of just like Lauren Pritchard specifically says someone just comes out and like, and that's such a big thing to start off with. And to me, it always reminds me of, and I always go back to this very first improv tip I did of playing paranoid. Del would say, play paranoid, just like assign value, and like, any innocent thing, you're like, that means this, and whatever, you're injecting meaning into it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Injecting meaning into it. And so let's go back to the question of why don't I take suggestions? It's like the moment that I take a suggestion, whatever it is that I'm going to, say I take a suggestion of something that you don't want to find in your grandmother's drawer, and it's like, a dildo or whatever it's going to be.
Right, of course.
The first thing that we're going to be talking about is the dildo. And I also feel it's a dildo, and this is what I love doing. The scene is about this. All roads lead to my partner. Some point in this scene, we have to get to the intersection of you and me, right? That's it. Yeah. So this scene is essentially about the two of us. It's not about whatever it is that we're doing, but whatever it is that we're doing at the beginning of the scene, that's our
part of it too.
That's part of it too. So we let it go. So,
I think really quick, I want to sort of hang a lantern on that because I say this all the time, and I think you're 100% right. The scene is ultimately what's going on between these two people in this moment as we watch.
And as the scene goes on, we want to start surrendering those things that the things that aren't the two of us, right? So it would be, so the moment that I said, are you, I'm getting into this, right?
Yes.
If I say, are you okay? Like at that moment, I'm going, here we are, we're getting to the intersection of you and I. And that's a conscious thing that I do.
So you did that on purpose?
Absolutely.
Great. So I'm gonna just put a pin in that for a second because we're gonna see this in a second. I think that's super, super interesting, and I 100% agree with you. I think it's all about the relationship, all about these two people. I think you believe even deeper than I. It's sort of even what's going on between these two players in this moment, right? You feel this.
Absolutely, and so that's why I'm going to be adverse to taking a suggestion from somebody. Because it's going to push me away from that. And here's another thing. when we take a suggestion, I think what we have to do is we've got to teach people how to take suggestions.
I did an improv tip about this. I 100% agree.
Right.
Let's go.
So for me, it's that feeling of if we get, and it's the reason I remember Adele talking about getting suggestion, and the reason that we have that opening at the beginning of a Herald is to deconstruct it.
Yes.
So that if the suggestion is cowboys, not every scene is about horses.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so to be able to pick that apart. I want us to, the suggestion is, where are we standing? And I don't need to prove to the audience that I'm improvising. I think a lot of people say, we have to make sure the audience knows we're improvising.
Right, and didn't Del, I mean, you were more sort of contemporary to him than I was. I just caught the tail end of Del, but wasn't his feeling that ultimately the suggestion would kind of fade away, like that we wouldn't take suggestions anymore, and that improvised theater would stand toe to toe with straight theater and just shoulder to shoulder, and people wouldn't say, "Oh, that's good for an improv show." They would just say, "That's good for a show."
I am 100% with that, and
yeah,
I
agree.
I feel like I think I talked about it in the podcast with Sam Wasson, who wrote Improv Nation. The idea of like we start calling ourselves actors, we have to start charging more for it, but the thing is like that is not going to happen until improvisers start feeling their self-worth and getting to know that.
I 1,000,000% agree with you, and I feel like a little bit, I have a feeling about this idea too, where improvisers now are being trained by other improvisers, which you mentioned, and I feel like it's a little bit of, we're skipping an evolutionary step. And I feel like that bears out in the long run.
Right.
Like I came in as an actor and then I started doing short form. I learned a ton from that. I didn't know how much I learned from that until years looking back. I'm like, oh, my whole sense of attack on a scene is based on doing alphabet game or emotional option or whatever. I learned that and I see, this is my thing, guys. I see a gap in people's education who didn't do short form. They skipped that step and then they kind of pussyfoot around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think, but I think you're so right that we're actors, and the people that I love, Kia McCarty was just on, and what I really love about her work is that she's an actress, and she really shows there's a depth to her work, which I rather like.
Oh my God! I mean, that's if anybody really thinks about the improvisers that they enjoy, the chances that they enjoy watching, the chances are they consider themselves actors, not improvisers.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna fight tooth and nail with any improviser who says I'm an improviser, I'm not acting, because all improv is acting.
Right.
It's all of it is acting.
Right. And if it's not, then it's just a version of stand-up comedy, sort of. You're sort of like distancing yourself from it. You're not inhabiting and like all this stuff.
You're also not using the tools that are at your hand. That the moment that you call yourself an actor, I mentioned this before. The moment that you call yourself an actor, suddenly you get a tale that goes back 3,000 years.
Yeah, that's great.
And
that's so great.
and so you don't have to rely on formula. You get to rely on emotion, blocking, tempo, pace, movement, character, all that shit that takes it away from us just standing up and doing something. So in this scene, you reached out and grabbed a cup of something.
Okay, we're just jumping ahead. We may not get to the scene today, right? Except for we don't take a suggestion. Dave likes to say no instead of yes. We're subverting all the conventions of improv. I'll say really quick two things. One person who I think of like that as an actor is Gene Villepy.
Oh yes,
who does work that is so bold and delicate at the same time, and just really love her work. And also I'll say in terms of being an actor and sort of inhabiting, getting into it, one of the things that I really drew out of your podcast about Improv Nation was when Sam, right?
Yeah.
Sam says, quoting Viola, it's not just a clever rearrangement of the note.
Oh my God.
I was driving, I almost pulled over. I was like, holy shit, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. And we have to remember, because I'm writing a book, and it's so weird. I'm writing this book, and I've been writing it for a year, and I'm driving in my car, and I'm like, Viola, I didn't fucking mention Viola.
Right.
Like all of this would not be, none of this would be here without the foundation of games, playing, connection, like everything that she put,
For sure.
that she added, that she gave us.
Yeah. All right, let's see this scene. We're doing it. I think we're doing why we're here. This is just a tool to get us to do it. Let's see. You're there. I think, sir, one of the other things that I wanted to say was, it's so interesting because I take a suggestion just so much by habit, and I think one of my favorite improv shows I ever saw was the Chris Hogan show with Chris Hogan and John Lair, who did not take a suggestion, and that I had just moved to Chicago. That show blew me the fuck away, and I couldn't believe it. And I remember, to this day, 30 years later almost, I remember pieces of that show that were like, oh my god,
what are they doing?
Yeah, for sure. Because coming from a college where we've done the Herald once or twice, and we just do short form, to see them just like settle into it, and they're talking to us in the audience, and then suddenly it's a scene. I'm like, what? Oh my god!
Right. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, it's so great.
They've started. I guess they've started.
Yes.
But TJ and Dave, another group that starts
another
that
contemporary
way.
one.
But I get a lot of pushback when I teach things. Like I need the place to start. It's like, you have fucking started. If you are a sentient being standing with somebody else, even if you're not standing with somebody else, we have it.
For sure. And I think it goes to show that the scene comes into focus really from the relationship out.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we're not super clear on where we are. We are somewhere, but we're not super clear on it. But our relationship is the thing that when we need a place, when we need a clear delineation of that, then we'll say that.
Okay, it's not super clear to the audience.
Yes.
It's super clear to the characters.
Yes.
The characters know where the
yes,
fuck they are.
You're right.
You know, like at that moment, I think that's a really important part, because people say, well, I didn't know where I didn't know where you were. It's like, you know what? Here's the thing. You and I, where did you think we were?
I thought we were in an office break room.
Okay, great. You know, we could have been in a prison cell.
Sure.
And if we determine it at the beginning of the scene, we don't get the joy of the discovery of where it is that we are. And
where did you think? Prison cell?
No. The minute you got coffee, I'm like, me, I didn't. I feel like I will add where it is that we are if I need to, because really the only people in an audience who want to know where it is that you are improv teachers. Nobody else gives a fuck where you are.
That's hilarious.
You know, but for me, if I know where I am, as the scene is going on, I'm doing double duty. And I'm doing double, triple, quadruple duty and duty. And what I'm really doing is I'm going, I think it might be this. And the answer to the question for me, and the answer to the question of where are you, is very often, where shouldn't I be? And I'll put it there.
Oh, that's super interesting. I think that, for me, that goes back to that episode with Mick Napier where he was like, if I see one more goddamn scene in the laundromat, I was like at the gym listening to this like, yes, someone speaks to me. Like, I was 100%. But I think you guys in that episode also said, like, well, if it's going to be a laundromat, why not the guy who runs the laundromat and a repairman instead of two people that are, like, it's just making it a little bit, just putting a tiny bit of effort into the choices.
Don't give me, somebody says, don't give me the scene that I expect.
Yes.
Because I've already seen that scene.
Yes, 100%.
And if you go to a laundromat, anything that you're fucking going to tell me at the beginning of that scene, where it's like, oh, the clothes, and did you mix the whites with the color of the clothes? It's like, fuck all that. Instead of just going, Miriam, I'm not going to have this discussion with you right now. And just short clothes.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Okay, so we start off, and we just start in the space, and I sort of start off with this.
Let it go, Jerry.
Right, and you start right out of the gate with "Let It Go," and I'm assuming that you read that off of my.
Absolutely.
Yes, because I sort of had like
your shape.
Yeah.
Your shape and the way that you are moving around, and I am going to play counter to that.
Yes.
So if you are anxious and I am anxious in that scene, if I buy into your anxiety, we really only have one emotion.
That's a good call.
So if you have an emotion, I can play any emotion except that emotion.
Oh, interesting.
And for me, I feel like that's what it is that you're playing. If you're playing anxious, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play calm. And I'm going to play calm because it bucks up against you, and I have something to do right away. I have something to do right away. My character has something to do right away, and that something that I have to do right away is this. My focus right now is to calm this person down. Right. If you get calm, I fucking got nothing to do. So you better keep
ramping it up.
Ramping it up.
And then, so what do you say? So that's interesting. So you're playing counter. So what is your approach, or do you think that it's really a thing for people to do peas in a pod scenes?
There is a place for peas in a pod scene, and I do have an exercise that works on that. So
you have to buy the book to get it, you guys.
I got to write the book. The peas in the pod scene is. I love a pea. I teach a pea in a pod scene. That was one of the things we were talking about earlier, where if I am so angry at something, like, no, two people have to say it, have different emotions, and when I find myself saying that, I'm like, what if they had similar emotion? How do we make that scene work? And this is how we make that scene work. Two peas in a pod. At one point, one of those peas is going to get spoiled. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do.
If we have a discussion, we have the same point of view. At some point, you're going to say something that's going to make me go, wait, what? And the moment I go, wait, what? I want you to hold on to your pea in a pod because I'm coming at you from
so you're sort of saying that in a Johnstonian sort of way, that you're looking for the breaking of that routine, and you feel like that's really kind of the beginning of this.
Absolutely.
I got you.
The question is, it's a Passover thing. We're coming up to Passover. It's what makes this day different than any other day. And I think that I don't know that that's taught anymore in improv, where you go, my character, this is with them, I start a scene over here. I know one thing. At one point, whatever it is that this character knows about himself or herself is going to be shattered. Yes. And we're looking for that shattering. We're looking for that shattering. And the moment that shattering happens, everything is thrown off.
Yeah, what makes this day different? I talked about that with Lauren Pritchard and with Chris Tallman, this idea of like, sometimes to take a scene that's maybe a little bit out of focus and bring it into focus, if one of us or both of us can decide what makes this day different, that it sort of helps like goose up the scene and just energize, like, because it's not just another day. It's not just another like day in the life. This is the day that.
Well, for me, it's like this is the day that I realize this about you. Mm-hmm. It's not this is the day that I realize if I put a little water in my omelet.
Right. No. This is the day that I confess that I love you. This is the day that I say I'm going to quit.
Right.
Turning points. Yeah.
Right. And those things will come. You don't have to bring them at the beginning of the scene. They will come. And the Razowsky phrase is, you will know what you need to know when you need to know what you need to know. And when we're patient, what that mantra does is that mantra keeps you grounded, present, and knowing, I don't know what's next, because fucking next will come when it comes. Right. And I'm not going to know what's next until after it's done. Right. That's what next means.
And that your approach to it, which I really love, one of the things I really love about your work and your approach is that it really emphasizes and puts at the top of the list being in the moment.
Absolutely.
Because all those things you just said sort of all really hinge on being in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. Great. And so you approach me and you're like, hey, let it go.
You're not on the line. Your ass isn't on the line, Tom. Let it go. Just leave it alone. You know what? Whatever it is you have holding on to now, you don't need to hold on to it. It's not a big thing. Is it?
You said whatever it is,
No.
let it go.
Tom, a second ago you said whatever it is, let it go. Well, how do you know it's not a big thing if you just said whatever it is? I know what you're doing. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're thinking. I know.
Okay. Yes. So at that moment, that was the moment that it became personal. Mm-hmm. And so what was I thinking at that moment is I'm offering this to you. I think I said I know what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So the moment I know what you're thinking, what I'm doing is I'm wanting to be this worm in your head.
Yeah.
And I want you to respond to, you don't know what I'm thinking. How would you know what I'm thinking?
Right.
To take it from there. So I'm indicting you, and you can either push back against me, but you have to hear those words that I'm saying. Yeah. And look at your body language. It's really like you're doing this incredulous, your body language, your shape is like suddenly going, what the fuck? Your shoulders are back, I'm at you, and you're pushing back at me, which is wonderful.
Right, and I'm not totally like, I'm not retreating. I'm holding my ground as much as I can, sort of really leaning into my shape a little bit, and just like I'm taking it sort of on the chin. Rather than fleeing or moving, I'm just taking it on the chin, and you're sort of like really close to me. And I love this. What I love about this part is I think that there's moments in a scene where people just like claim their superpowers, right? And you're like, I know you, I know your past, and your present, and your future, or whatever. Or someone's like, I'm the best baker in the world. Like, I just think it really it opens up like for me, back to something you were saying earlier, that tale that goes back 3,000 years, to me, like that taps into like the mystical nature of theater. Like suddenly this scene isn't just two people. Now it's that plus there's this.
Absolutely.
I think it's so exciting.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about you saying that you didn't retreat, that's what I would call abandoning. You held on your ground because just looking at the scene, that if you move your body away, then we don't get that pressure. You held on to your spatial relationship. I moved a little bit. You held on to your spatial relationship, which means that you called it intimate. We have this intimacy because we also have this tension that's going on. If you move away, we blow that fucking tension.
Right.
I don't have the moment to come up to you and whisper in your ear, I know what you're thinking.
Right. Yeah. You're super close to me. You're totally 100% in my space.
Absolutely.
And I think sort of what I was thinking there was like to lean into this, let's say call it a confrontation, but to lean into this and to sort of, characters who you are under pressure. So let's keep the pressure on. I think that a lot of times beginning improvisers, yield to their human nature to get out from under.
Absolutely. They bring their personalities in the space, and you're not allowed to bring your personality in the space. Because what is it that the scene needs? The scene needs, you said, confrontation. I use the word tension.
Yes.
The scene requires 100%. That tension. And I think a lot of actors a lot of improvisers don't, when I use that disparagingly, a lot of improvisers don't want to play the tension because they think that it's a personal thing.
Yes.
And if you and I are playing a scene where we're playing some Shakespearean scene where we're two brothers, confronting each other, we're not going to want to get the fuck out of it. We're going to want to hold on to it and foment it and push it. So don't be afraid of the tension.
100%. I think the tension is really what sort of connects with the audience in a really, really visceral way. Like when you're watching a movie and you're holding your breath and you realize, I've been holding my breath for 10 minutes. And because that tension on screen, you're not you sort of want that, you're rooting for that guy or not rooting for that guy or whatever, but you don't hope that it dissipated. You'd be like, what? Oh,
no. And the example that I give is somebody pays $18. They should only pay $18 to watch an improv show, and they sit there and they sit in the dark, and we're in the light, so they're paying to be voyeurs.
Yeah.
So we need to give them something to talk about, and I think that. You and I, we know each other. We play with each other. We're close in that way. I think that there are a lot of new improvisers who don't see themselves being able to get that intimate. But if it was a fucking scripted piece, those people would absolutely not have trouble.
I totally agree. And I think that's true. And I think as a beginning improv teacher, I try to understand that and try to shepherd those people into a community.
I'm sorry, as an improv teacher teaching beginning, not as a beginning.
Yeah, sorry, as a teaching beginners. Yeah. I do think that because it's so personal, what you're bringing is yourself, that it's like, I'm kind of touching you. It's not necessarily my character like that, but I think they've got to sort of like warm up to that idea and be available to each other. And what are the standards of that community? What are we all comfortable with and not comfortable with? I think that's something that to me has really come into my consciousness lately, and I feel like sort of as like we have that advantage, I think, going for us that we do know each other and we can get this intimate.
I agree with you, and I also feel like I agree with you, and yet I think that at the beginning of all of my classes, I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to ease my way into it.
I get you.
I'm going to people in my class. I've never had anybody in my class knock on something. I've never had anybody in my class attack somebody.
Of course.
I've never had that, so I don't have to address that at the beginning. Right. But what I will do is say, what does it feel like to be that close to someone? What does it feel like to be that close to somebody? What does it feel like to be that close to somebody? What does it feel like to be that close to somebody? What does it feel like to be that close to somebody? Don't you love that tension? Let's hold on to that tension. There's good touch, there's bad touch, and we know what that is. Let's not talk about it right now. We can talk about it when we need it. But the idea of here's another question: the people that do you get to play with people that you don't know?
Sometimes.
Do you get to play with veterans that you don't know?
Sometimes.
Okay, good. So the moment that you play with these people that are veterans that you don't know, that you've never played with before, there's an understanding that the two of us are actors playing the scene out.
Yes.
Right? And so I know that I can. So I played with somebody the other day, Shuli's group. I played with opening night the music.
Oh, great.
That was really fun. And there's a guy named Gabe in the group.
Okay.
I don't know who the fuck he is. I really don't know who he is. And we're in a scene together, and I'm playing the mom, and he's playing the husband. Yeah. And I just felt like I wanted to kiss him.
Sure.
I felt like I wanted to kiss him.
Yeah.
And I don't know this guy, but I know that the two of us understand that this is theater.
Right.
And so we had a very impassioned kiss. And I also, then he lifted me up, and I'm grinding myself against him. And the thing is, like, I know that there's that intimacy that two seasoned actors will have.
I agree. And I think we sort of earn that trust through our history of work a little bit. And I feel like, let me ask you a question about the students that you're saying, how does it feel to be this far and this far, which I think is a really great way to indoctrinate people into like, look, this is what we're exploring, the great sort of great yield of tension of like, how close are we, whatever. Do you teach students it's their very first improv class ever?
Absolutely.
Great.
I don't
that's
ever,
great.
For me, I don't want to get the yes and going on, none of that. I don't feel like we got to get this out and then at some point we're going to tell you to break the rules. My feeling is, let's not have the rules be set at the moment. I don't care. All of my classes, for the most part, the only thing that I have is I want you to be 18 And that's all.
Fair
I
enough.
want you to be 18.
That's great.
And nothing else matters. That's all.
That's
To be
great, man.
18.
That's really good.
I was in Florida not too long ago, and I had 2 women in my class who'd never taken an improv class before, and they were great. They were doing adult improv that wasn't like, you be a crow and I'll be a worm. It's like, no, fucking no. They did 2 scenes, and I didn't tell the class this, but I said, okay, I'm gonna stop. I think her name was, she had like a 1950s name, like Viv. And I was like, Viv, can I tell them? They're like, yes. This was her first improv scene.
That's great. That's amazing.
It blew people away.
That's great.
Because
I think that's really so great.
It's heart to heart.
Really yeah. I think that's really great. Let me ask you one other question about that idea. Do you feel like you are able to accomplish that sort of thing because, at least partially because of the gravitas that you as David Razowsky writ large bring to the endeavor?
That's a really good question.
And I'll ask because as you're thinking about it, I'll give you a second to think about it. I know when I was in Dell's class, with Dell, he got to do things that, like, if anyone else asked me, I'd be like, are you out of your goddamn mind?
Right.
But his gravitas drew me through. I was like, okay, great, we're chanting. Okay, great, we're chanting. Let's fucking do this now.
Right.
But if I tried to do it in my class, I'd be like, let's do some chanting and channeling.
So is it, when you say gravitas, do you mean elder statesman likeness?
Yes,
okay, great.
that you're bringing in, that they know who you are.
Yes.
They know something about you.
Right.
You sort of bring in your sort of Dave Razowsky energy.
Absolutely.
And you are the steady hand on the rudder.
Yes, and there is that now. That wasn't that back then when I first started.
Do you feel like it's evolved?
I feel like it's evolved, but this is what I go into every single class knowing that the first 20 minutes of any class that I have, I'm going to get pushback.
Oh.
And the pushback is the longer my student, the more experience my students have had,
right,
the more pushback I get.
Sure, of course.
Right, and that's what it is. And I taught at a place in Toronto that has a very large theater that also is in Chicago. I don't remember the name. And I taught a 4-hour workshop with the teachers, and I got tremendous pushback. Sure. I taught the same 4-hour workshop with brand new students, and I got none at all.
Right.
Because I'm not threatening the way that they're thinking.
I 100% agree. And I think most of the time when you teach sort of out in the world and you go to like a theater company, the person who's in charge of that theater company has the most pushback, and they're like,
oh my God,
they've got something at risk, kind of, where the other subordinate people or whatever don't have that.
Absolutely. I did, there was a theater company in Arizona that I really loved playing with, a really great group of people over there. And I did an entire weekend, and then I always do a show at the end with the students because it's really fun to do.
Sure.
And we're backstage, and on the wall is a mimeograph, could be a mimeograph. Mimeograph is like, that's that old, taped to the wall, all the rules that are important in improvisation, and I didn't support any of them. I'm so glad I didn't see this.
Yeah, for sure, right?
I don't care who you are. I don't care what you got.
But when people come, they're coming for the Dave Razowsky experience.
That's it.
You owe that to them, and they can. I always tell my students, look, for these 8 weeks, take this ride, man.
Right.
When you get off, at the end of 8 weeks, you can tell me to go fuck myself and do whatever you want. But try this out. See where it goes.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit more. I think we're maybe running low on time, but let's see where we go.
Bullshit. Yes, bullshit.
I'm not
Right.
bullshit.
You see that?
Yep.
Where you went, okay, it's done. It's like, no, I'm not going to let you fucking finish the scene then.
Yeah.
Because in the moment that you do that, and I'm not saying you.
Yeah,
I'm
yes, I
saying,
got it.
the moment that you do that, we got to come up with something else.
Cool. We'll be wrapping up in like
Thank
2
you.
minutes.
The moment that you do that, I got to come up with something
Yes.
else. And we're not done with. We're not at the corner of you and me.
Yes. And we sort of come to that really quickly. I think I'm going to sketch ahead a little bit because we're about out of time, and I'll just sort of say one of my favorite parts of the scene, this will be a totally different sort of episode, is when you say, are we okay?
Right.
And I think that's when we're like sort of hanging the sign. This is the corner of you and me.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Are you okay? And do I want to say, and no matter what you say, I am not going to let you fucking get away with it unless I believe it.
Yes. Dave Razowsky, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been so fun. And I'll say one last thing in parting. One of my favorite things that you say, or my 2 favorite things that you say. One, you're quoting Mark Sutton, where you say, no one ever leaves an improv show thinking, man, they really fixed that bike. I say it all the time. It makes all the sense in the world to people. And my other one from you that I think really, take this with you guys. Product is the process.
Right, the product
People
is-
come to watch the process in action. I fucking think that encapsulates the whole thing. That is at the juncture of, it's not a clever rearranging of the things that are known. It's so great. Check out his podcast, ADD Comedy with David Razowsky. I'll link it below. Check out his TED Talk, very fancy. Check out his book coming soon. Check
Improv
it out.
Lesson.
The Improv Lesson.
That's what I call it.
Coming out. And thank you guys for watching, and we will be back very soon with more. Hey friends, thanks for checking out the video, and if you want to hear a little bit more, check out one of these 2 quality videos. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and follow us on social media. All the links are in the description down below, and let me know what you would like to see an improv tip about. Thanks for watching.